now on Grid Tonight, the entry list has been released for the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Is Toyota Gazoo Racing's win streak at Le Mans in peril, considering a tougher competition from multiple manufacturers? The NASCAR Cup Series will be introducing a new rules package for the short tracks and road courses. Will the changes actually improve the on-track product compared to last year? Tensions between Michael Andretti and current F1 teams continue to escalate. Are the teams really trying to block Andretti Global and Cadillac from joining the grid by proposing a much higher entrant fee, which would triple it? Hello to all our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. With me is Ben Snyder and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat below and ask any questions you may have. Now here's Ben with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Our top story tonight: on Monday, the entry list for this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans was released to the public, the 91st edition of a twice-around-the-clock French Endurance Classic. A total of 62 cars across 5 classes, 16 Hypercar entries, 24 in LMP2, 21 in GTM, and, of course, the Garage 56 innovative car is the Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 from NASCAR and Hendrick Motorsports. Plus, there are 10 cars on the reserve list in case one of the original entries has to withdraw from the race. We have a star-studded grid set for the race on June 10th for the centenary, the 100th anniversary since the inaugural Le Mans 24 Hours back in 1923. The main attraction is, of course, the Hypercar class and the different manufacturers, including Cadillac, Van Wall, Porsche, Ferrari, Peugeot, Glickenhaus, and Toyota. The entry list on your screen is courtesy of the ACO. Now, speaking of Toyota, with tougher competition on the way this season, they've updated their LMH car. Here's the updated GR10. For the last 5 years, Toyota Gazoo Racing have won the 24 Hours of Le Mans overall, and during this time, they haven't faced a lot of serious challenges to dethrone them at Circuit de la Sarthe. The same drivers are returning: Mike Conway, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jose Maria Lopez in the number 7, and Sebastian Buemi, Brendan Hartley, and Ryo Hirakawa in the number 8. Toyota clearly understands that 2023 won't be a cakewalk like other seasons. The photos on your screen courtesy of Toyota Gazoo Racing. Kobe, is Toyota the favorite to win Le Mans for a 6th consecutive time, or will the new competition expose any potential flaws that might have gone unnoticed in previous years?
No, Ben. I don't think Toyota is going to be the outright favorite to win Le Mans this year. You listed all of the different manufacturers that we have coming in. It's going to be quite an incredible race. I think joining Toyota, you already said it: Cadillac, Van Wall, Porsche, Ferrari, Peugeot, Glickenhaus. It's going to the competition. It's going to be through the roof this year. It's going to be 124 Hours of Le Mans that people will want to see and not miss, because this is going to be the most competitive race we've seen for the overall win in a while, since the golden days of the LMP1 hybrid era, when you had Audi, Porsche, and Toyota. Those are the days most recent days when it was really competitive at Le Mans. But since Audi and Porsche went away from LMP1 and we only had Toyota, then a few privateer entries, it's just mostly been a Toyota show at Le Mans. They've been running the table, although they've had a few issues here and there. But I think overall that Toyota is going to have a tough task at hand if they want to win Le Mans for a 6th consecutive time, because the other manufacturers, they're going to be bringing their A game and a lot of leeway Toyota had before. That's going to be gone now. There is going to be little room for error, because the other manufacturers are going to be ready to pounce, and Toyota, they're going to have to step it up big time if they want to win at Le Mans in 2023.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, isn't it? With all these new manufacturers, we've been waiting a little while for this. I mean, Toyota in the WEC for the last couple of years, as Kobe said, really haven't had much of a challenge. I mean, last year they had one grandfathered Alpine to fight against, which did give them a good run for most of the season, but was overpowered in the end, and the Glickenhaus, which didn't complete the season. This year we've got all those manufacturers coming in as you listed, Ben. I mean, the big test, and we'll kind of see where we stand, is when we get to Sebring in a couple of weeks for the first WEC round. It's on the Friday, of course, of the Sebring 12-hour weekend, so that's going to be an interesting one. And then we've got Spa as well before we get to Le Mans a couple of weeks after that. So there's all these new cars that are still going to have their teething problems. I mean, in that sense, Toyota will have the advantage because they know what they've got underneath them mechanically and reliability-wise, whereas some of the others haven't got that. Okay, some of them will be running in IMSA competition as well, and have done at Daytona, and then we've got the 12 hours of Sebring to come. So They'll have plenty of data as well. It's going to be really, really interesting. This big 100th running at Le Mans we've all been mouth-watering at the prospect of it for some time, and it's great to see the entry list finally out. And most of the driver names filled in as well. A couple of blanks here and there. They'll get filled in time, we can be sure.
So I must, I see we've got a comment here from Adam Lemery's first. Those Ferrari hypercars sure do look pretty. Nice to see the prancing horse back in sports car racing. Absolutely. Nice to see so many manufacturers back in this position to potentially compete for the overall win in the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So on that note, guys, if we could put us all on screen here, because I want to be talking to you when I say this, because my sports car knowledge is a little bit more limited. Over the last few years, I've been trying to get into it a little bit more. I believe Toyota first won this race in 2018, which was the first year that they really only had the privateer teams to compete against. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so they've started this run of winning when, with no disrespect to the Rebellions of the world or Glickenhauses of the world, we always knew that Toyota was going to be favored to win the race each of the last, however long it's been, 5 years. So I think Toyota could be in for a little bit of a rude awakening here. I wouldn't put it past them to win a 6th consecutive Le Mans, but I think it's going to be very, very difficult when you look at the massive amount of increased competition that they have, and having not really won this race before, with a level of competition like this. Again, I want to make the disclaimer here that I'm hardly a sports car expert in the sense that you guys are, but I don't see how Toyota could be ruled the absolute overall favorite here. Certainly not in the same way it's been the last 5 years. So there's definitely going to be a lot to continue to pay attention to as the race draws closer. We'll see. Maybe Toyota could surprise us and go out and dominate again, or, as I think we're all expecting here, they may have some much stronger competition than they've had in the last few years.
Well,
now going back, go ahead, Kobe.
As I said, well, you can see Toyota is obviously concerned about the competition, or otherwise they would have, brought such a significant update to their hyper. Because I know with the first edition of their Le Mans Hypercar, they had a few teething issues as well. The pace was questionable at certain times, and with all of these new manufacturers coming in, they felt like they had to, bring a lot of upgrades to this car to be able to keep up with the competition. So obviously Toyota sees that, as I've been saying, they're going to have to be on their A game in this new era of sports car racing. At the very top, they've enjoyed the luxury of having the clear advantage for the last several years, but that advantage is gone now because all these other manufacturers are going to really give them a run for their money, and Toyota might be the ones trying to keep up with the other ones instead of the other way around for the first time in a while.
And let's not forget, just to not rub salt in the wound, but the year before when Toyota did have competition, they had the race in their pocket and broke down on the very last lap.
Yeah.
So they do have form against the bigger teams, but as you say, they've gone away recently. They have had the race all to themselves, and the championship for that matter as well. Let's not forget it is part of a world championship, the Le Mans race. So Sebring is going to be really, really interesting when we get to see the Ferrari for the first time, because that hasn't run in IMSA competition. Porsche have, of course, and we've got Cadillac in there as well. So, yeah, Sebring is going to be the real tester. And as I say, we've got Spa after that to get us all lined up for Le Mans in June.
All right, it's all coming back to me now, because I think that was the year that it was on the same date as the Baku Grand Prix in Formula One. And then the year after that, we had the weird situation because I think all the LMP1 cars faced trouble. So we had an LMP2 leading outright in the closing stages. So it was a very interesting period in sports car racing there, as we're now entering an even more interesting period, I think, with all these different manufacturers coming back in. So it's going to be great to see. Now, going back to the Hypercar entry list, 3 full-time IMSA GTP teams will be making the trip over to Le Mans. In previous years, major differences in prototype regulations prevented this from happening until we finally found unity between LMDH and LMH. Also, the IMSA prototype teams no longer have to worry about the street race in Detroit conflicting with the Le Mans test day. Detroit is not on the schedule for this year. Chip Ganassi Racing's number 01 Cadillac will be in the race, renumbered as the number 3. One of Team Penske's Porsche 963s from IMSA will be a part of the race, with Felipe Nasser being the only driver announced so far. The second IMSA Penske Porsche Motorsport entry wasn't entered this year. Action Express Racing will make its Le Mans debut, adding another Cadillac to the field. Cadillac actually decided to change the name of its Cadillac V LMDH to the Cadillac V Series R. Matt, how exciting is it to finally see full-time IMSA prototype teams being able to go to Le Mans and compete for the overall win? And as a follow-up, what are your thoughts on this entry list as a whole?
Yeah, it's big, isn't it? I mean, with these big American teams like Shank and the Taylors that have been wanting to get across and do this race for a long time. Okay, Acura aren't represented this year, but hopefully they will be next. And Cadillac there, and that's a big name in obviously American motoring. Good to have a big American team there. Obviously, we have Ganassi and Penske running them, but as a manufacturer, to have them in the top class is really, really good. LMP2 is stacked as it always is. They're all running the Orica, which is a shame. It's one of those where we've funneled all the other LMP2 chassis out, really, and everyone's ended up plumped with the best one. So that's really good. We've got some great teams in there with Jota, United, and a lot of the other teams from the European Le Mans series coming across to join up with the regular WEC teams, which you can see on the graphic there, the WEC teams from the World Championship. So that is going to be a race to watch out for. Well, we'll all be looking at the big class, but the real race could come from LMP2 across the weekend, because that is stacked and massive amount of really, really good drivers in those class. A lot of them could and probably should be featuring in the hypercar class, but unfortunately, when the music stopped, there was no chairs to spare. There's your GTE AM category. We've only got one GTE category this year because GTE Pro, as it was, has gone away. So that has got bolstered by a few more entries, although we have only got the one GT category, and that pesky number 24. NASCAR will be mixing it up with those guys, I'm sure, throughout the 24-hour race. Really, really looking forward to it. It's a really stacked entry.
Yeah, for sure. Quite a stacked entry. And got a comment here from Dimas, one of our regulars. Hope you're having a great night or morning wherever you are, Dimas, in Indonesia. He said, do you know the Hertz Team Jota Porsche 963 WC Hypercar and Lilo Wado, the first woman for our GT WEC driver? Yeah, Dimas, if you stick around towards the end, we're going to talk a little bit about the Hertz Team Jota customer Porsche, and really nice to see Lilo Wado get a great opportunity to run in the GT AM class this year in the World Endurance Championship. She's a really solid driver. Looking forward to seeing what she can do in this championship this year. And getting back to the question that you asked, Ben, I think it's really exciting to see these IMSA teams getting a great chance to go over to Le Mans, compete for the overall win. And as you said, it was really difficult at first because of the Grand Prix on the streets of Detroit, because they require you to be at that test day. And if you have the IMSA teams over here in the States trying to run a street race in Detroit, they obviously, can't spread, if they spread all their resources over here and then try to go over there as well, they're going to spread themselves very thin. So it really makes sense, although it would have been nice to see the IMSA GTP class on the streets of Detroit this year with the new circuit moving from Belle Isle to downtown Detroit. I think it's a really good decision long-term for sports car racing to free up that weekend so these IMSA teams can be able to prepare for Le Mans, go over to the test day and see what they can do against the world's best prototype teams in sports car racing. Yeah, really great to see a good representation from Cadillac there. Although the same Cadillac teams we saw at the Rolex 24 in January, and then Action Express Racing making their debut at Le Mans. I think it's going to be very exciting for them to go over there and try to win overall at Circuit de la Sarthe, because they've already won the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Now they're going to try to go out there and win another 24-hour race. And Matt, you brought up a good point about the LMP2 class. It's really unfortunate that the LMP2 class has really become a monopoly and scared away all of the other constructors. Hopefully when the next set of LMP2 regulations come out, we can see a little bit more diversity, but this class is really just overrun by Orca. LMP2 has become a spec class. And then GTM, really disappointing to see GTE Pro go away. But unfortunately, it was just the times that we're in, and it no longer makes sense to keep the class. So we now have just a single Prime GT class. And as far as the Garage 56 entry, we've talked about that numerous times on Grit tonight. Really excited to see what the NASCAR entry can do when it's time for this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. Really looking forward to seeing it mix it up with the GT cars going down the Mulsanne straight. And I'm sure all of the fans of the track are going to be very excited to see that car as well.
I think it's a huge deal for NASCAR to have that entry, the Garage 56 entry on this list here, and going to be very interesting to see how that car performs in the race later this summer. Casey Campbell saying, I'm hearing more Porsche teams are out for the 12 Hours of Sebring. I know there's a certain situation going on with Porsche right now. I think we'll touch on that here a little bit later, so you can stick around for that. But the NASCAR part of Le Mans is what I'm most excited for. See Jimmy Johnson and Rockefeller and Button in that car. It's going to be something special. So we'll see how that turns out. Now, on that note, we move on to our second story in regards to NASCAR. They announced a new aerodynamics rules package yesterday for the Cup Series that will debut at Phoenix Raceway with the goal of improving the on-track product at short tracks and road courses. The new package will see some slight modifications being made to the next-gen car to significantly decrease the downforce created by the vehicles. We'll see this package used at the Charlotte Roval, Chicago Street Course, Circuit of the Americas, IMS Road Course, Martinsville, New Hampshire, North Wilkesboro, Phoenix, Richmond, Sonoma, and Watkins Glen. The rear spoiler will shrink from a 4-inch to a 2-inch spoiler, plus the removal of 3 diffuser strakes, engine panel strakes. Dr. Eric Jacuzzi told NASCAR.com that the sum of all of the changes basically adds up to a 30% reduction in downforce. He compared the new downforce level to something we haven't seen since pre-2000s and thought the mid-90s would be a better comparison. Jacuzzi also added that the drivers were a key part in this important conversation and helped NASCAR determine they were headed in the right direction. Photo seen on your screen was taken by Stacey Revere from Getty Images. Kobe, are you optimistic that these changes could potentially bring excitement back to the tracks that disappointed in 2022?
Well, Ben, I'll say that I'm cautiously optimistic that the changes NASCAR made will potentially bring the short tracks and road courses back to being the races, that really, brought the crowd to the track and really excited the fans watching at home. Yeah, it was no secret last year, looking at the intermediate tracks, the tracks where we typically see a lot of mundane action. It was a lot more exciting, so a lot more passing, and those are actually the races that people were looking forward to as we got deeper into the season. But on the short tracks, you heard plowing stuck in the bubble a lot on the radio from the drivers because as you got deeper into a green flag run, it became nearly impossible to make passes, and you really just had to try to get to the bumper if you could. And it was really frustrating at places like Martinsville, and we all remember that Richmond Spring race last year as well, which we didn't really see a lot of action at all. So I think it's a really great thing that NASCAR took the time during the off season to come up with a new package to reduce the downforce levels, and hopefully we'll be able to see some really great action on the short tracks and road courses in 2023.
It's completely flipped, hasn't it? Because with the old car, it was the short tracks and the road courses which promoted and gave us the best action generally throughout the season, and the mile and a halfers and the twos were left behind. But last year, it went completely the other way. I mean, you think of Martinsville, we had 2 races at Martinsville. There was only half a lap of excitement in all of them, and that was thanks to Ross Chastain. I have to disagree with you, Kobe, about the Richmond Spring race. I really enjoyed that race because of the fuel and tire management that came towards the end. I thought that was one of the best races of the season on the short tracks. We'll have to wait and see what Phoenix does, because whatever they did during the year last year, it did get progressively better as we went. Phoenix in the spring and Martinsville in the spring were absolutely dog awful. So it got better throughout the year. Let's see. We've got obviously Vegas coming up this weekend, and then on to Phoenix next. So let's hope whatever changes they do or have made, 30% of downforce coming off the cars is a lot. So we're going to see the cars moving around again, not being stuck to the ground as they were through the corners. Something like Phoenix will be interesting. I mean, when we get to Bristol later in the season, not the dirt race, but on the concrete, that will be interesting with 30% downforce off the speed they carry around there. So, again, optimistic to see if they've fixed the problems. Sounded from what they ran in the Phoenix test in the pre-season that they were pretty happy with the results that they had from all the data that they crunched. So, let's see in a couple of weeks how it goes.
I think we have a comment from Adam Lemerise again. I like the NASCAR rule changes. Going to be exciting. Well, I don't know if we'll be able to say that just yet until we actually see the product on track. But I will say this, Adam. I do like that NASCAR has at least acknowledged that there was an issue with the quality of the racing on these tracks last year and is trying something different. The definition of insanity, as it were, is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. So at least they're trying something different here, and hopefully it will lead to a different result with the quality of the racing that we see. Whether or not it will be improved enough to the fans' liking, I guess we'll only know until we get the cars out on track for the first couple of races and get an answer there. But I do have to at least applaud NASCAR for taking that step and acknowledging that there was improvement to be made on those tracks. We'll see if it is able to work as intended once we get to these first couple of races. But as I mentioned, NASCAR openly acknowledged the quality of the racing on short tracks and road courses last season did not match the massive improvement we saw on intermediate tracks, 1.5 miles and 2 milers, if it were. Jacuzzi mentioned that the comments from drivers about the brakes being too good and the tires having too much grip, that played a role in it as well. The only tracks that won't have this new rules package are Bristol and Dover. Now, according to Jacuzzi, teams and manufacturers asked NASCAR not to include these two tracks because it would essentially create a fourth aero package that wouldn't have mud flaps and wipers on it. Of course, we're still waiting to see if we'll see NASCAR racing in the rain on ovals later this year, if we'll get an opportunity for that. After we saw some disappointing results on short tracks and road courses before the 2022 season ended, there was some speculation that NASCAR was looking at introducing these changes prior to the playoffs. However, NASCAR decided to finish the year with the same rules package that underwhelmed at these tracks. Now, after taking more time to come up with a solution over the offseason, we'll get our first eye test of the new package at Phoenix on Sunday, March 12th, about a week and a half away. Matt, ultimately, did NASCAR make the right decision to wait until this year to introduce changes to the cars instead of trying to rush it out for the 2022 playoffs?
Absolutely, they did. You can't reinvent the wheel mid-season and change everything. All the teams will have their data, especially from the past races at the tracks that we go to twice a year, like Phoenix, like Martinsville. And the bigger teams have obviously got more data with the 4-car teams, the 3-car teams against the single-car teams. So they would have more pooling to go into what they can do with whatever rule package they did. I mean, we talked about supercars changing it was a year and a half ago when they were planning on bringing out their Gen 3 in the middle of the season. Was going to be crazy to think that we'd have two halves of the season. Thankfully, it didn't happen through COVID and everything else that was going on at the time. But yeah, I think it was the right decision to hold fire on it because we could have seen a complete upswing or different swing in results there through the playoffs for some of the lesser known teams coming to the front or the bigger teams disappearing. That wouldn't have made for a great championship show. So it's good to see that they've held fire, done some more R&D through the winter break, and have come out with it this week, ready for next weekend at Phoenix.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm really glad that NASCAR decided to, use the extra time on their hands to really try to look and see whatever they could do to try to improve the on-track product and then get it out on the track in a test session, before you actually do it in an actual race. And then the drivers, they were raving about it in a really positive way, thinking that they were heading in the right direction and a huge step forward for the on-track product. Hopefully. It would have been a lot different if they would have rushed out during the playoffs and you're getting your first test session during an actual NASCAR race. And if it doesn't go well, that's not going to reflect really good on NASCAR at all. So I think they made the correct decision to just wait until 2023 to start off with the fresh slate, because the teams already had all of their cars set up for the 2022 rules package last year. And if you're going to be in the middle of the season while you're still learning this car and all of the teething issues they had with the car during its first season, and you're going to ask the teams to change the rules package in the middle of the season, I think that would be a really hard ask of all of those teams, especially for the smaller teams in the garage. It would be a really difficult ask to ask them, just to make these changes to the cars right in the middle of the season. So it was probably the best idea for NASCAR to start with a fresh slate at the beginning of this season with this new package for the short tracks and the road courses.
I am rarely, if ever, a fan of changing the rules mid-season. Imagine if the NBA, for example, said there are too many three-pointers being made, so we're going to move the three-point line back 3 feet, and they announced that in April, just before the 2023 playoffs are supposed to begin. That would fundamentally change everything about how teams are playing the game, and they wouldn't have any time to try to adapt to that or get used to that. I think it would ultimately work the opposite way it might be intended and actually hurt the product even more. So I think NASCAR absolutely made the right decision here. I agree with you guys. If you're going to change something that radically, that fundamentally, you have to take the offseason to do that. You can't just try to rush something out, before it's ready, just to try to make it a little bit different and hope that you get the best case scenario before the playoffs. So I think NASCAR definitely made the right decision here. Now we move on to our third story in the latest chapter of Andretti Global versus current Formula One teams. Michael Andretti faces another uphill battle that could end up derailing his hopes of taking the Andretti name back to the pinnacle of motorsport. According to Adam Cooper from motorsport.com, his sources have told him that F1 teams are pushing an idea that would triple the price Andretti would have to pay to enter Formula One. At the moment, the anti-dilution fee costs $200 million, and it's being reported that F1 teams want to raise that price to at least $600 million, which could be outside of Andretti's price range. Motorsport.com even suggested this price could go even higher. Link to this article is in the video description below. This comes as America's investment in Formula One continues to strengthen, with ESPN expanding its coverage this year. The graphic on your screen is courtesy of Andretti Autosport, and we have a statement from ESPN's press room that was released recently, including new elements for this season. One of the marquee events of F1, the Monaco Grand Prix, will air live on ABC for the first time. The races in Miami, Canada, Mexico, and the Lenovo US Grand Prix in Austin will also air on ABC. 13 races will air on ESPN. That's the most ever. For the first time in history, the F1 season will include 3 races in the US, with the inaugural Heineken Silver Las Vegas Grand Prix running in November. Fans will have more ways to consume F1 content, as ESPN Plus will simulcast 18 of this season's 23 races live, including the season opener, finale, all 3 US events, the iconic Monaco Grand Prix, and more, in both English and Spanish. Coverage of F1 qualifying, including the F1 Sprint, will have an increased focus in 2023, with most sessions airing on ESPN or ESPN2. Following what was done for the races in Miami and Austin last year, ESPN will produce an expanded number of preview and review shows in 2023 that will air live on ESPN social media and digital channels on race days. The first 2023 edition of the ESPN post-race show airs at noon Eastern Time on Sunday, following the conclusion of the Bahrain Grand Prix on ESPN3, the ESPN app, ESPN Twitter, ESPN Facebook, and ESPN YouTube. With the new agreement, including expanded direct-to-consumer rights, ESPN also has the flexibility to roll out additional content over the next 3 years, with more to be announced later. ESPN's signature news and information program, SportsCenter, will have F1 coverage before and after all 23 races, including continued expansive coverage from U.S. races. Now, this is all obviously a big deal for F1 in America, and the future remains bright. Having Andretti Global and Cadillac being welcomed to the grid would only add to the momentum as F1 tightens its grip on the American market. Kobe, given all of the positive momentum we continue to see with F1 stateside, could the continued drama between Andretti Global and current F1 teams begin turning off American fans?
Well, Ben, I think it could certainly, start turning off a lot of your diehard American motorsports fans, because after a while, you're going to wonder, how come they don't want people like me, like in the sport, in the paddock? Because the Formula One teams aren't even trying to hide what they're doing right now. This is effectively a veto trying to block Michael Andretti and Cadillac from coming to Formula One. And it's crazy because every time Michael Andretti meets one of their demands, they keep moving goalposts and goalposts. If he meets this, be like, sorry, that's not enough. You got to do this. And if he meets the second condition, I'm sorry, that's not good enough either. And if they do indeed raise the price to $600 million to enter Formula One, and Michael Andretti and his partner be like, oh, we're going to cover it. Then they're going to be like, oh, we're going to raise it to $1 billion. And if Andretti decides to continue, then be like, we can pay $1 billion, then they're gonna be like, okay, $5 billion, and then it's just gonna get ridiculous and looks like a complete circus. I think it's super unfortunate that this is happening, because Formula One is booming right now in America. A lot of people like the credit Drive to Survive for that, and it's really great to see that ESPN is taking Formula One coverage even more seriously than they were. It's a big deal that they're going to have a pre-race and post-race shows on their flagship program, SportsCenter, which is super popular here in the United States, and putting a lot more of the races on ABC and ESPN as well. I think that's going to be a really good thing for Formula One and America. And I really hate to see this continued feud between Andretti and the current F1 teams. I'll never understand why these F1 teams are so hesitant to have Andretti Global and Cadillac enter the pinnacle of motorsport. And it's a super unfortunate, because this could be something, that it could be easy. You could just let Michael Andretti come in, run things his way, and we wouldn't have an issue at all. But for some reason, the current F1 teams don't seem to have an open door policy at all, where if anybody can prove that they're capable of being in Formula One can get in, then I think they should, if they have the capabilities. And I don't think Michael Andretti has anything to prove. Look at all the different motorsports programs he has all over the world, and he runs them very successfully. So I don't see any reason that can justify the the F1 team stance of, that we're going to keep moving goalposts and we're going to even raise the prize to $600 million for an entry fee. And it's really crazy that motorsport.com is even suggesting that some teams might even raise the price higher. That makes me wonder if $1 billion could be out of the question, that every time Andretti is trying to meet all of these demands, it's just super ridiculous that the teams keep changing their demands. And I'm sure it's very frustrating for Michael Andretti, because all he wants to do is just be on the grid for the pinnacle of motorsport. And I got a comment here from Joe Samniego saying it'll be so odd to see SportsCenter giving Formula One coverage time after years of never mentioning F1. Well, Joe, as we know, times change, and it's really odd, because at one point it seemed like Formula One, ESPN, it was like they were trying to decrease the amount of motorsport content that they had and moving away from it completely. And now you have Thursday Night Thunder coming back on ESPN with the SRX series, more Formula One content as well. I think it's really good for the future of motorsports. And, looking at NASCAR's new TV deal coming up, some people are even wondering if ESPN could be in play with a potential return of them covering NASCAR. And we'll have to wait to see how that NASCAR TV deal goes. I'm sure when that news breaks, there's going to be a lot to break down and discuss.
Yeah, Nicole Briscoe looks like she's going to be front and center of the F1 coverage. There's an ESPN stalwart there from their NASCAR days. Back to the Andretti story, or before we actually get to the Andretti story, happy birthday to Mario for yesterday, by the way. But I saw that story that you referenced, Ben, and as you said, the link is in the video description for Adam Cooper's story on motorsport.com. And I saw that pop up earlier in the week, and it was almost an insert spitting coffee across the room gif here. 600 million. Why are they so threatened by Michael? What's going on? It's strange, isn't it? We've got, come and bring your series to America, and now as you say, we're about to enter the season with 3 Formula One races in the States. But you can't have Colton Herta for super license points, and we all had that debacle at the end of last season. And you can't bring a team, but we want to have a good chunk of the calendar in the States. It's very, very strange. Michael's jumping through all the hoops here to try and get this going. At some point, he's just going to have to hold his hands up, surely, and go, I tried. Sorry, American F1 fans. If you want to cheer for something, you're going to have to continue to cheer for Haas. Just remarkable. And as you say, Kobe, that you do get the feeling that, okay, we've got this money now. Oh no, you have to bring another Brinks truck with another truckload of money in it to get your entry. It's just really, really crazy stuff.
Guys, I think the most beautiful irony was when Gunther Steiner's comments came out at whenever it was, I think a couple of weeks ago. And I actually put a tweet out that said, man who once led American team onto the grid as an 11th outfit is now trying to stop an American man from leading a grid on a new team onto the grid as an 11th outlet. Do you not see the irony there? It's like, I don't remember Haas having to jump. Certainly they had to jump through some hurdles, but it's not like we haven't had 11 teams on the grid before. We had it very recently in 2016 because Manners last year was Haas's first. I almost feel like I'd almost have a tiny bit more respect for these existing F1 owners if they just literally closed the door and told Michael Andretti, no, you're not welcome here, because now you're constantly moving the goalpost. Michael's already broken ground of the Andretti Global headquarters. It's just the most ridiculous circus that continues to spiral out of control here. And $600 million is an absolutely staggering amount of money. I don't know if Cadillac, having them on board, they'd be able to help cover that. But like you mentioned, Kobe, who's to say they don't meet that, and then the teams say, oh, okay, well, never mind. We've got to race it to like $1 billion now or something. It's just absolutely, absolutely ridiculous. I continue to hope and pray that it all gets sorted out. We see Andretti Global on the grid, because I think, having a 22-team grid will increase the quality of the racing that we see in Formula One. But obviously, a lot of people disagree with that. Maybe Michael's last resort is going to have to be waiting to buy a team. I know there have been some rumors in German media, I believe, that AlphaTauri and Red Bull could be on the verge of relocating that team or be looking to sell that. So that may be an option there. But I think the easier option would be to let Michael come in with this project that he clearly has a base for and is already established that he's serious about. Unfortunately, he's not getting the warm welcome that I think he deserves. So we'll move on here. Matt, I understand that you have a grid EPI update for us, so I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Just quickly, that AlphaTauri story has been rumbling around this week, and it's been put to bed again today that the team is not for sale by France Toast. So for now, let's see. Yes, Grid EPI, we had another race in the Endurance Performance Index at the weekend. It was in South Africa. You wait for races, international motorsport to come along in South Africa, and then two come along at the same time on the same day at the weekend with Formula E in Cape Town. And then all the way across the other side of the country at Johannesburg, Kyalami, the former F1 venue, was host to the next round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge, the Kyalami, or the Joburg 9 Hours it was called at Kyalami. A small entry, but a 1-2 for BMW and WRT, and a win for one of the South African drivers, Sheldon van der Linde, taking the victory for that team, along with teammates Dries van Voor and Charles Weerts. So they get maximum points in the championship and in the Grid EPI. It actually pumps Dries into fourth in the provisional standings as we are at this stage. We'll give you a proper top 10 every week from after Easter, and we'll have a proper top 10 to look at. But Dries is in there. He's now registered. Maro Engel could have gone to the top, but his Mercedes broke down halfway through the race and they clambered through to a 10th place finish. So unfortunately for Maro, who's been up the front at Bathurst and was up the front here and was running well at Daytona, he couldn't get the points he needed to get up in the Grid EPI standing. So Archand Gouvan, Charlie Eastwood and Sally Ollop continue to lead the EPI after the Asian Le Mans Series, which we talked about last week. We've got one event this week coming up. It's at St. Petersburg when the GT America Championship powered by AWS gets underway in support of the St. Petersburg Grand Prix for INDYCAR. 2 races for them. So those guys will get entered into the spreadsheet this week. And then we've actually got a week off, thankfully, because it's been a manic start to the season with Daytona and Dubai and Bathurst and the Asian Le Mans Series and all the other things that have been going on. We've actually got a week off in a couple of weeks' time, which I'm actually quite looking forward to, not having to enter any results into the spreadsheet. But we come back after that with Super Sebring, with WEC and IMSA, which we talked about earlier. So give you the GT World Challenge America results update on next week's show. And it shouldn't affect the provisional top 10 as it's their first round, but then on to Sebring, which will have an effect on standings.
Next, some more motorsports news from around the world. We've seen quite a few announcements regarding the drivers who will be competing in SRX this summer on ESPN. First, 2021 SRX champion Tony Stewart will return for another full season, his third consecutive year. And the 2022 SRX champion Marco Andretti will also return for another full season, try to defend his SRX title. Ryan Hunter-Reay and Paul Tracy are back for a full season as well. Joseph Newgarden will make a one-off start at Motor Mile Speedway. Finally, Tony Kanaan will run 3 SRX races at Stafford Speedway, Thunder Road Speedbowl, and Eldora Speedway. Vector Sport will enter the Le Mans Hypercar class later this season with the new Isata Fraschini Tipo 6 Competizione LMH. Initially, they plan to run the full FA World Endurance Championship season, but their full season entry was denied. This sets them up for a part-time schedule in 2023 and potentially going full-time in 2024, with another small-scale manufacturer joining the likes of Van Wall and Glickenhaus looking to take the fight to the heavyweight manufacturers. It really shows us the great potential of this new era of prototype racing. Photo courtesy of Isata Fraschini. In a surprising and unexpected partnership that was announced early this morning, Hertz Team Jota is pairing up with longtime NFL star quarterback Tom Brady. As previously announced, they'll be running a customer Porsche 963 LMH car in the FA World Endurance Championships Hypercar class. However, the customer Porsches aren't ready yet, so we'll see the number 38 later in the season as they focus on their LMP2 program to kick off the 2023 season. Sponsoring Jota's Porsche prototype program are Hertz, California luxury brand Singer, and Brady's next generation apparel brand. Guess it? Brady. In a statement, the 7-time Super Bowl winning quarterback said that he's been a big fan of motor racing for a long time and believes his Brady brand can be the future of motorsport apparel and design. Photo courtesy of Hertz Team Jota. And we just talked about AlphaTauri, and I'm going to do a full update on that now. After media outlet Automotor und Sport suggested that Red Bull was looking at options to move AlphaTauri from Italy to England or sell the team principal Franz Tost put out this statement earlier today. As you can see on the screen, he said he had some good meetings with Oliver Menslav, who confirmed that shareholders won't sell the team, and Red Bull is committed to supporting AlphaTauri in the future. He dismissed reports in the media as rumors that don't have a foundation as the team prepares to improve this year after a disappointing 2022. The team is ready to bounce back with Yuki Tsunoda and Nick DeVries leading the charge. Graphic courtesy of AlphaTauri. Now here's Matt with a brand new segment we're debuting this week called Hots and Nots.
Yeah, sorry, Kobe. I should read the script there because you had the AlphaTauri story and I jumped in front of you. Yes, time for a new segment. We're going to roll this out over the next couple of weeks. Hope guys and girls viewing will enjoy. If you do, then drop us a message in the comments and you can post yours. Hots and Nots from the weekend. We haven't discussed between us what we've got, which is what I wanted, because then we can roll them out as a surprise. We'll go round in a circle. We'll do the hots first. Ben, what was your hot moment from the weekend? What took your fancy over the weekend just gone?
Well, forgive me for copying my one shining moment from Monday night's Encore show, but I got to give a call to Sheldon Creed with that amazing save in the Xfinity Series race. I thought his car was going to hit the wall head on and be absolutely totaled, and he somehow wheeled that thing back and got it pointed straight. That's probably my hot for this week, if you will.
Yeah, and same here, Ben. We'll see if we'll make it unanimous. That was one heck of a save by Sheldon Creed. We're only a little ways into the season now at the very beginning, and it's already a candidate for save of the year. I have no idea how Sheldon Creed didn't have, such a horrific crash on the backstretch like we saw from Kyle Larson several years ago when he was driving for Chip Ganassi Racing. So Sheldon Creed, amazing job there. Although he didn't necessarily get the finish that he hoped for in Fontana, it was still great that he didn't total that car, because I have a feeling that a lot of other drivers would have had a really horrible crash on the backstretch.
Well, if that's going to go as save of the year, then I will post for race of the year, because I think we may have already had it, and that was at Cape Town on Saturday for Formula E. What a race that was. Sensational from start to finish, had all the drama, and Antonio Felix da Costa got the win after missing the attack zone. Then he had those two massive great passes on Cassidy and then Jev on the last lap in a place that wasn't an overtaking space, and got it done. So yeah, Antonio Felix da Costa's winning move in Cape Town is my hot. So now the other side of the coin, Nots, Ben.
Oh, we just talked about it. It's got to be the continued hostility to bringing in Andretti Global into Formula One. I cannot get over that number of $600 million. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I've already spoken enough on that. I'll just pass it over to Kobe. But that, I want to be clear about, that is also my not in this week in motorsport news. It's just absolutely ridiculous, the hoops that Michael is having to jump through.
And my not for the week, it certainly has to be Tyler Reddick. I know we talked a lot about his terrible start to the 2023 NASCAR season on the wrap-up show, but during that time the Xfinity race was going on, and he had yet more bad luck. Ended up getting caught up in an incident there, got put into the wall. Seemed like he had a lot of issues with JR Motorsports in that race for some odd reason. So it hasn't started off well on the Cup side for Tyler Reddick this year with two DNFs, and then end up getting a really disappointing finish in the Xfinity race as well. So Reddick's gonna try to get all this bad luck out of his system and really start to get 2023 going on a positive note, because it's been so far in the first couple of weeks, it's been a lot of bad luck for Reddick.
Yeah, they had a terrible day, didn't they? 23-11 with Wallace's issues as well. My not is going to be F1 testing. Now, there was nothing wrong with F1 testing, but for years, fans have been pining for F1 testing on the television. Oh, yeah, we want to see F1 testing because we're bored of watching the live blog. And then when we get live F1 testing, everyone goes on social media and says, oh, this is boring. Well, it's testing. Come on, guys. This is what it's there for. We shouldn't be watching testing. We don't go and watch NBA practice or NFL practice or any other kind of practice, but F1 testing gets top billing for TV. I just thought it was a bit of an odd thing for news outlets to jump on, including Autosport, and a lot of people on social media saying it was boring. Well, let's look forward to this weekend, because we've actually got a race to look forward to, although we're pretty much convinced we know who's going to win already.
I think that's, something that the diehard fans would certainly care about is testing. And there's probably some diehard NFL or NBA fans that would love to watch practices or scrimmages as well. Yeah. But if you're just a casual fan or somebody who enjoys the races, if you're expecting to see something similar to that, you are sadly in the wrong place, and I think you're going to be disappointed. So I don't know what the fans want. I don't know if the fans know what the fans want, but that's a question as old as the sport itself, I suppose.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. And
yeah.
big weekend coming up this weekend, so we'll have plenty more hots and knots from Bahrain, St. Pete, and Vegas potentially, amongst other things going on this weekend to talk about next week's show.
Yeah, well, on that note, let's take a look at our upcoming schedule here at Grid Network. Friday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll have the Women in Motorsports show. Don't miss our interview with ARCA Menard Series driver Mandy Chick, who got a top 5 finish in the season opener at Daytona. Saturday at noon Eastern, Grid Live pre-race will be on the air, the opening weekend of action for Formula One in Bahrain and INDYCAR in St. Pete. Sunday, we'll have Grid Live wrap-up 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway to recap Formula One, INDYCAR, and NASCAR. And then on Monday, my show, the Grid Live Encore show at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, recapping the truck and Xfinity races from Sin City, plus Formula 2 and Formula 3 in Bahrain, Indy next in St. Pete. It will be a packed show, so you won't want to miss it. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our social media platforms as well. Thank you so much for helping us reach our milestone of 500 subscribers. Now let's see if we can reach our new ambitious goal, 1,000 subscribers, before the Indianapolis 500 on May 28th. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notifications every time we upload a new video or host a new show. And of course, like I said, follow us on all of our other social media platforms as well, and visit gridranking.com. If you really liked what you saw tonight, you can take 5 minutes after the show to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. Join Colin, Deschelle, Mark, Robin, and David in investing each month in the Grid Network. We encourage you to join this amazing group of people who help keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start expanding our coverage, adding new members to the team, giving Grid Network an increased presence on site, covering races from a track, as well as more content for you all. The link to that is also in the description box below. If you would rather make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want. Consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. For Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish and Matt White from Grid EPI, I'm Ben Schneider in for Joshua Birch tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.